Kyle just wanted to pass on this. Fucking, he delivered that line just before. Me and Dave address this every now and again. He is here this time to talk about an album he may have not liked. He didn't come down with COVID like the last time. So I don't want to record any of these. Give me a second. Has anyone here got the Rona? Right, just touch that counter there and now let me lick it. So he's here. We've coaxed him.
And you've had your power cut for the week, Kyle, so don't be pulling that excuse, all right?
One evening.
Dave, Duncan, Kyle, back from Epidemic.
Oh shit, this is the intro, yeah.
We're recording. We are back to check out the new album from, I was going to say Swedish Melodeath band, but really now it's international Melodeath band, Arch Enemy.
Internationalish.
Internationalish. The band's new album, Deceivers, will be released on August 12th via Century Media Records. So, gentlemen, album number 11. That was more like 2, but I meant 11, from Arch Enemy, which follows up.
Once again, solidifying and underlining the Scottish educational system. One video at a time, ladies and gents. One video at a time.
This follows up their 2017 album, Will to Power. So, after the band's last concert in December 2019, they took a year off to write the record and record a new album. With Daniel and Michael both being in Sweden during the pandemic, and there not being many restrictions in Sweden, it was fairly easy to meet up and work on the music. But Arch Enemy would soon face some significant obstacles when it came to getting the whole band together in the same room.
What happened?
Well, with Alyssa and Jeff Loomis both residing on the other side of the Atlantic, the creation of a new album became rather more challenging than expected. It did turn out to be the worst time ever to have an international lineup, laughs Michael.
Yep.
That part of it sucked. It was like, now we want Alyssa to come in and do the vocals, and Jeff to come in and do his solos, both from North America. Well, that wasn't going to happen, but in the end, we made it work. That's what I like to hear. We did the drums with Jakob Hansen, and then went back to Sweden and did the guitars ourselves. Michael explains it takes so long to do that, so we thought it made sense to come home. Then Daniel engineered that as well. Daniel, like the drummer. We did the bass and the solos in Sweden, and then went back and did the vocals with Jakob in Denmark. He put it all together, mixed and mastered it. We were going to fly Jeff in to do his solos, but then he couldn't come, so I ended up doing solos in the studio in Seattle. Working with Jakob was great. With the vocals, he was amazing. He gets such a great sound and performance out of people he works with. He's a super nice guy, and we really enjoyed it. So, gentlemen, Arch Enemy. I don't know about you guys, but I've never been one that's been like absolutely psyched for a new Arch Enemy album. I don't know. Here we are reviewing the new Arch Enemy album.
Why is that, Dave?
Well, I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Not the why we're reviewing it.
All right, okay.
Why have you never been super psyched on this band? I was trying to think of this today. Compositionally speaking and component-wise, I should really like this band.
Genre-wise, I should really like this band.
Yeah.
I have listened to them over the years. Not like this is the first time I've listened to Arch Enemy.
I used to have an Arch Enemy t-shirt that I wore all the time.
Fucking t-shirts.
10 years ago.
Big fan right here.
Massive fan.
It's now Kyle's cum rag.
Oh, Jesus.
I know. We might as well get the vulgar stuff out now before we talk about the music.
I have enjoyed some of the releases, but when I hear like they're releasing something new, I'm like, cool. I'll probably check that out at some point. Did
you just cool story, bro? This nowhere, fucking nowhere.
Yeah. And I heard the last album, Will to Power, but like when it came to reviewing this, I honestly couldn't remember a thing about it. I was like, I'll need to go back and actually listen to this because like I had to remind myself what it actually was like. What about you guys? Were you taking it from what Duncan is saying, probably not a big
I remember them back in the Angela days, and I was like a big old fan there. And like everyone else, I think I came to them when We Will Rise came out, and I was like, this is a fucking tune, man. And that was, it still is in my running playlist. because it's just constant. You're just like, oh, I need to keep fucking going. But it was like, to me, it was the epitome of what made that band kind of cool. It was catchy as fuck, heavy as fuck, and it delivered all those elements. It had the death metal stuff, it had the melodic stuff there. Even though she didn't really do singing, unlike the dynamic we get now, she did more kind of vocal, aggressive screaming, which I really enjoyed. And the solos were on point. The guitar work was great. And then they swapped vocalist, and it's not that I dislike her, but I remember listening to the first album and going, doesn't sound like the previous album. And then that was me. And for whatever reason, I've never really paid much attention to them since the occasional single that comes out, or if it appears on a playlist. I'll hear things and I'll go, oh, it sounds okay, but never to the point where like I need to listen to this album when it's released. Kyle, on the other hand, it sounds like
super fan. I have all that now.
Tattoos.
See this one? That's Arch. This one's Enemy. No.
Just love this idea. You try to get Arch Enemy over the knuckles, and Arch fitting on one hand, and you've miscounted the letters on the other. Oh fuck! Arch Enemy. There we are. The people are like, why? And you're like, yes, it's missing from the end. But
when I put it around this way, it says "in the march,"
in the march,
which is a really bad colonoscopy.
Yeah, don't do it. You only get it in the third month of the year. in a March. It's like not November. It's just really unpleasant. You know what I mean?
Every day of March.
Every day?
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, just like the November one. You can't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa.
So, okay.
Arch Enemy.
What did you think of this? What did you think of the album? Let us know.
This album.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't a huge fan back in the Angela days, but I did listen to them, and I had a T-shirt, and I don't know where I got it from, but I did wear it on occasion.
Okay.
But I enjoyed it well
distancing
enough.
himself from the T-shirt story, Dave. I didn't buy it. I didn't buy
it. It wasn't me. I don't know. Maybe it did. I just don't remember Duncan shop. But much like Duncan, they changed singers, and I was like, yeah, all right. That's a band I no longer listen to. Oh, it was all right. It just wasn't the same, and it wasn't the same as. And every time they release an album after that, I'm just like, yeah, sure, Arch Enemy's off doing their thing, and I don't really care. Like, I would probably check it out at some point. And did I? No, I did not.
No.
I did hear some of Will to Power because a buddy of mine, he likes them quite a lot. So he was like, you got to check the song. I was like, yeah, it's all right. It's pretty cool. But coming into this album, I had no expectations. They weren't low, they weren't high. I just didn't know what to expect. And what I got and what I figured out is, when you go to a hotel and you stay in a hotel and they serve you a breakfast and you got the whole big buffet thing, but everybody's eating all the good shit because you're a bit late and hungover. So you go to the cereal bench and they've got cornflakes and all this stuff and Cheerios. And
I don't like where this conversation is going. I literally subsist on cornflakes and Cheerios. I like bland things, Kyle.
You're the continental guy, aren't you?
There
Continental
you go.
breakfast, please.
That's exactly it. You pick up the cornflakes and it's not bad, it's not great, it's there and it hits the spot and that's it. Arch Enemy are the bland cereal of heavy metal.
You get some good Greek yogurt in there. I'll teach you Greek yogurt. You get some cornflakes in there, a spoonful of jam, and some nuts and dried fruit there. I'm telling you right now, fucking mahogany. I treat myself at breakfast. I pamper myself because hey, listen, I'm fucking worth it. Even first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that must be good for your bowels. That.
Yes,
but not the toilet.
This is why that's why I don't need Enema March.
Okay, it's not making sense now. Yeah.
I'm regular as fuck. So
now we know.
Yep. On the clock.
That was a shit joke.
But don't. I like it when you're funny. So this was bland cereal to you.
Yeah, I mean. Okay. I did listen to a bit of Will to Power, and it was like, yeah, it's just sort of more of the same for me. It's like, yeah, the guitar work Jeff Loomis does is outstanding, to be honest. He's always been a very good guitarist, and he's certainly showing off here. But it's just, I don't know, everything just screams generic heavy metal with this band. It just, even the name is kind of generic nowadays. All of the song titles, The Watcher, Sunset Over the Empire, spreading black wings. It's like, they don't really say anything, do they? There's just sort of, here's some metal shit we thought of. It's vaguely metal. Like, here you go. And the riffs are all kind of, I mean, they're above crap. It's not like turn of the century Ministry, you know. It's not super generic, but it's just like, it's very predictable and it's very just sort of, okay. There's nothing mind-blowing happening here, or how the fuck did they do that or anything. Shut up, Duncan.
Above crap.
Well, it is. It's not like there's a middle road. Sorry, I mean, like, it's not middle of the road. It's above that, but it's just not like, wow, what have they done? It's just,
is it middle of the loaf?
Yeah.
Oh no, not the loaf.
Slightly to the right of middle of the loaf.
Okay.
But it's all just a bit, you know. Like, the songs are quite predictable, and you can tell when things are going to happen, and they happen. But they have got some pretty damn good guitar tones coming out, and those things are massive and sound fucking huge. And the bass, except for one intro, it was just like a sunset over the Empire. The bass intro, the bass tone sounded really weird. I was like, what?
Reminded me of Guano Apes.
Yeah, a little bit of that. It sounded like they have like some delay on the top end or something. And I was like, it sounds really strange. Like, bass should be punchy and in your face, not like spread out across the stereo spectrum. It was just strange. It just struck me as, okay, that's a decision you made and didn't work out this time. Maybe next time, my guys.
On album 12.
And album 12, maybe you'll get your bass tone right. But that bass tone doesn't go throughout the whole album. It's only on that intro, but it just struck me as like, what the fuck? It's a weird choice. But I mean, everything sounds good. Even the time-aligned drums sound nice. They don't sound like they've been completely replaced by samples and stuff. They sound natural enough, except for being completely stuck to the grid, which is my favorite thing.
At least the drums, I was listening to the kind of snare. There are like various velocities of the snare. It's not just like one sound over and over.
Yeah, it's definitely somebody's played it. They've just fixed it basically and stuck it to the grid, which is okay, fine, and it's half natural or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. It just didn't strike any sort of like, oh wow, with me. But it didn't also strike, well, this sucks either. It's just completely like every now and then, like, oh, that's a cool solo, or that's it.
Yeah,
like the vocals are great. They're all very good musicians, very good at what they do. But the music is just meh. All right. This would probably be great, like at a party in the background when no one's paying attention to it. And just be like, yeah, sure, put that on. It's like the album. This is one of those albums you'll give to someone who doesn't like metal. They're like, yeah, check this out. They'll probably like it. Yeah. But that being said, they've got some very catchy, very anthemic moments on here, and I think that's probably what they're going for at this stage in their career. 11 albums in, 20, almost 30 years, I think, and because they've had 2 singers before Alyssa now. And so they're probably just going for, it felt like to me they're probably going for, we need an album to go on tour, so we've got something to sell the fans, blah, 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 and new merch, all this. That's kind of how it felt. It wasn't just like, it doesn't feel like there's much passion for the genre in this for me at all. It just feels very sort of going by the numbers, doing their thing because they have to do it to go on the next tour and make the money. And that's just how it came across to me. It feels a bit almost, and I kind of don't want to say it, but I'm still going to say it because it's how I felt, almost a little bit soulless. Just a little bit, this is just what we're doing because we can do it. I mean, and that's
almost
coming
like
from someone who used to like Arch Enemy.
Right? Almost like their soul has flown away. A soul fly, if you will. It's just a theme for tonight.
It is.
Might as well just get it.
Yep.
Okay. Duncan?
So I loved it, yeah, no.
Okay. Got that.
I'm still reeling from the controversial stance of Kyle on cornflakes here.
Which is like the book
that I want. Kyle on cornflakes.
I've just never had it with Greek yogurt, mahogany, and nuts and whatever.
No, not mahogany. It gives you a mahogany.
Oh,
don't eat wood.
All right. I'll eat wood if I want. Yeah. What if I swing that way?
So I can't believe you did. For those that don't know out there, just a little bit of research on how Kellogg's developed cornflakes. It was originally an anti-masturbatory tool or device. It was to stop people wanking, essentially. So yeah.
I'm sure if you put that down your pants, it's gonna suck.
Well, yeah, it was the crunch. They made them deliberately crunchy, so if people moved, you had to lie on them. So if you moved to, bash the bishop, it made noises, and then people were like, "Oh, you're touching yourself, you pervert." It's safe to say I enjoyed this album more than Kyle.
Oh, okay.
Really? Okay.
Yes. I see where you're coming from in some respects, but this worked better for me, a lot better for me than I actually expected it to do. And in some ways, our conversation last week when we said we were going to do it and you were like, oh no, I kind of actually, I think I lowered expectations for me in a way where when this kicked in right from the off, I was like, right, cool, right, we've got, what's weird is, like, I wouldn't even necessarily class them as a melodic death metal band anymore. I think they're more in line ahead, and at times they've got elements that feel like it's pushing more towards like that kind of power metal Euro stuff that we're getting, you know, specifically now of bands like Adamanthe or, you know, of that ilk where, you know, the synths are branching out. There's a lot more going on from a keyboard or synth environment to elevate things, and we have these big stomping grooves and really, really fast kind of verses. And at first, like, the first song kicked in and I was like, right, cool. We've had the huge anthemic chorus. We've had, like Kyle said, very much paint by numbers. We'll see where we'll go. And then Deceiver kicked in. And I think it's one of a handful of songs here which is really devoid of, like, melodic choruses. You know, it sticks to fairly aggressive vocals all the way through it. And she can fucking do it well. I mean, that's maybe the thing that kind of makes me question, maybe actually agrees a bit with Kyle in a lot of respects as to why she's in the band now, because she has that element that lifts those huge melodic hooks that the band never really had in spades before, and this does make them more palatable, definitely makes them more commercial, specifically in Europe. This is like, that's their bag, you know what I mean? So it definitely leans in towards that, but it still has a lot of snarl and a lot of stomp to it. I think the kind of tightness of the drums and the bass are fucking great. There's a really strong percussive kind of thump to this album where the guitars at times aren't necessarily doing the most memorable verse riffing, but when it kicks into choruses, things do lift up, and that's where the band shines. Like, is in those memorable choruses, those memorable hooks, the parts that lift right up, and really the rest of the song and the intro and the verse are just vehicles to get you to the chorus and the solos, and that's the formula, and they're really good at it. Like I say, I think she's exceptional as a vocalist. I think she's like a weird cross at times between what you would expect from a kind of Nightwish and that really kind of high register vocal tone, but plenty of snarl underneath it as well. Though, like you mentioned, the guitar solos are fucking great. I love that. I think I've
always respected Jeff Loomis as a player. He's really good,
there's a virtuosity there without being prickish about it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not a cunty solo at any time. You know what I mean? It really is a kind of, right, I can sense the talent in what you're doing here, but at no point do I feel like you're just purely showing off because you can. And in a lot of respects, it always elevates and benefits the songs. Unlike Kyle, I love the bass sound at the start of Sunset Over the Empire, which to me is one of the best songs on the album. It had a lot of, at times, kind of almost a weird kind of Eastern sort of like Moscow, Russia sort of vibe going on in the background, specifically in the solo work and the riffing. So I really enjoyed that. And it's full of catchy, sellable songs. What it comes down to is, when I was interested in Arch Enemy is almost a decade ago, right? Maybe even slightly longer than a decade ago. And I've kind of checked out, and this is me first time checking back in, and the band is almost unrecognisable to what they were back then. It's a different beast entirely. And I kind of feel like I almost have to draw a line under what was to what is now, and kind of almost appreciate this album on that level. And on that level, I think it does a lot right. Some of it is a bit paint by numbers. Some of it could be classed as very predictable. It is very A to B to C in song structure. They don't throw any curveballs at all. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't smiling and kind of headbanging along to it. There's plenty of those moments on an album like this, and I do think Kyle's greatest compliment to him is something that I can echo in spades. They're all very, very talented musicians. And it's for a band that are 11 albums in, I don't think they're as complacent as Kyle thinks they might be at this stage. At the same time, though, I can completely see where you're coming from. Generally, I would try and argue points with you, but I wholly understand where you're coming from. Like, you would give this album to someone to get them in if they weren't accustomed to heavier music. You would not give them, We Will Rise and say, check this out. That's not the arm you go with. But I don't think there's too much of a learning curve to get to that older stuff. And as an entry album, I think it's really good that way. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. My grade, don't expect 5s here. My grade is higher than what I was originally anticipating I was going to give to it. And a lot of that is down to how unassuming I expected the album to be, and how much it actually delivered for me. So yeah.
Interesting. I'm kind of like part of both of you here for this one.
Stuck in the middle with you.
I totally agree with you guys that they're not just a melodic death metal band anymore. And that's evident on that first track. I almost feel like that the heavier side of the band is slightly more restrained on this release. There's still melodic death metal spread throughout the album, but it's used as a kind of balance. It's not a constant like barrage of brutality on this album. If you listen to the opener on the last album, I think it was a track called Race, it comes like firing out the gate, like big chugging riffs, thrash drums, gritty vocals. On this album, the opening track, Handshake with Hell, they've taken a slightly different approach. This is far more focused on melody. It's more mid-paced. The riffs have an almost like an like 80s kind of metal feel to them. The vocals still have that kind of like aggressive tone initially, but they soon switch into something far sweeter, where Alyssa starts to show off her range and her melodic side of her voice, which was actually very good.
Very good at it.
Track 2, that Deceiver, that track felt like this is how I thought the album was going to start. Like it shows like more of the band's more kind of venomous side. It's more up tempo, the riffs are tighter, and it's more in line with that like kind of Melodeath sound. And Melissa, for the majority, keeps it very harsh and very direct. When you go on to track 3, The Eye of the Storm, it moves back to that kind of mid-pace. Again, it's got a bit of a mix of that like kind of 80s metal, powery metal, wee bit of Melodeath. Again, Alyssa keeping the vocals fairly raspy. So it's still got a kind of like semblance of heaviness. The chorus of that track was very In Flames for me, especially the way they've kind of layered up the vocals. And I kind of felt like the formula of the album kind of continues down that path. Where
one for snarl, one for melody. Yeah,
it's like here's like a heavy up tempo Melodeath type track, and then they'll bring the tempo down on the next track where they ease off the kind of death metal pedal for something more kind of traditional. And I was kind of like, okay, this isn't bad. Like I quite like this kind of alternate style. It's not abrupt. It's quite well blended, and there's still enough like of those like arch enemy traits throughout that it kind of works. And I think that like the variance in tempo and the extremity did, like you knew you were on a brand new track. The second half of the album does start to change slightly, where those like faster tracks start to appear less and less. And that's where the kind of almost kind of repetitive nature of the album started to kick in for me. I just felt like it was too much of the same. I kind of disagree with the choruses here. I didn't think there was enough hooks on this album at all. I thought the album started really strong. I think the first 3 or 4 tracks have really good hooks, enough to keep you engaged. Track 5, Poisoned Arrow, kind of plods along, just ticking the boxes. Chorus is okay. Track 6, Sunset Over the Empire, decent groove riff from Michael Arnott, and it's got a cool kind of like backing vocal chant that's almost like a feeling like you're going to battle or something like that. And then it just felt really like went through a bunch of tracks that felt really undistinguished, like just similar formula, not bad musicianship at all or vocals, but just nothing that really stood out. Like I just felt like I'd heard it already. And I really enjoyed that first track on the album. I really enjoyed hearing Alyssa do a bit more clean, but she doesn't really like focus on it that much throughout the album. There's a bit of it on track 7 where you hear a bit of the kind of tonal melody, but she really doesn't go back to it in any kind of big way. The rest of it is more like kind of like the harsh vocals or, a bit of kind of tonal. But, she has a bit of range in that side. But I didn't feel like it was enough to give the album enough of a kind of distinctive quality.
They need to commit.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah,
I think they
agree.
need to pick a side.
Yeah.
And just stick with it. And I think they might lose fans if they do pick a side, but actually being in between at times is like trying to have your cake and eat it is not always the best approach to keeping a fan base. Sometimes just saying, actually listen to her voice, she can fucking sing. So that's what we're doing now. To me is a much better approach than trying to appease people that are harking back to a sound that was... It will change. A band sound will change when a singer comes in, especially one that can sing. You know what I mean? It's going to change, and to forgo some of that, it's not as much of an issue for me as it is for you, but to forgo some of that at times feels like almost you're forcing her to do something, not that I'm saying that she's uncomfortable with, but something that she can do well, but not as good as the other thing. You know what I mean? It's like when you... It's a Slipknot thing, isn't it? Because in that first Slipknot album, there ain't one guitar solo, and that album doesn't need one. And then that second album comes wrong, and there ain't one guitar solo, because that album didn't need it. And then that third album comes along, and Rick Rubin's like that, you can solo if you want. And they're like, finally we get to solo. And I'm like, there was a reason why we didn't solo, guys. There's a reason why we didn't solo. But they could always do that. It was always within them. But sometimes a bit of focus in one direction and it pays dividends.
Like you guys have said, they're very good musicians. Like, that is really clear. The bass and drums are super tight on this. Jeff Loomis has got some really cool melodious solos, and the guitar work is quite intricate, well executed for Melodeath. It just, I don't know, that second half of the album just kind of lacked a bit of creativity. I feel like I've heard this done 1,000 times, and there's nothing that makes this album distinct from others in the genre. There's some good riffs now and again, but I don't know, I just felt like vocally I think I wanted more. I think it felt a little bit kind of like almost kind of diluted at times, and she's clearly got the vocal chops, but it felt just really safe. I think more clean melody would have been a bigger impact here on this album, especially in the second half. I think it just needed bigger moments. It really just kind of flew under the radar. I think it was it track 10. I think it's One Last Time, and I really enjoyed that. I thought the lead work was really good. The way they kind of complemented the vocals on that track, that was pretty cool. Production wise, it kind of hits the kind of like the spot for that type of that sound. It's clean, it's crisp, it's got a good balance. It feels very Scandinavian, even though they're like not totally Scandinavian anymore. But I don't know. It was a little bit underwhelming for me. I thought it was a good first half, but overall a bit underwhelming. So scores for this new album from Arch Enemy. Kyle, what are you thinking?
I'm going to come in at a nice and safe 3 out of 5.
Duncan?
Marginally higher. I'm coming in at 3.5.
I think I can't imagine I'm going to come back to this if I'm in the mood for like that kind of melodic death metal sound. I think there are far better albums in the genre. I think fans of the band may enjoy it if they just enjoy hearing new Arch Enemy music. But if you're looking for something that's going to think outside the box or really grab your attention, that's probably ain't it. But I don't know. I feel like they have the potential and the skill to do so much more. I think it's just over half a good album. So I'm going to go 3 out of 5 on this one. So, ladies and gents, Arch Enemy and their new album, Deceivers, out on August 12th on Century Media. Let us know what you think. Stick some comments in below. Once you've heard the singles, once you've heard the album, let us know your thoughts. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon. But until then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.